Hello, my name is Gabriela Plešová, and in this presentation, I'm going to talk about peer learning strategies and peer learning moments in internationalized classes. The aims of the study that we undertake at Comenius University in Bratislava, Slovakia, are the following. We are interested to find how could we examine peer learning that is actually happening in the classroom. We also want to see what differences can be seen across classes between instructional outcomes and teacher's plan. We are interested to find what do students perceive as the advantages and disadvantages of these experiences of peer learning. And finally, we want to explore the teacher's views. This research is a part of our educational development course called Effective Teaching for Internationalization that aims to help teachers to internationalize their classes. So before I continue, I'd like to explain two key terms related to this study. The first of them is internationalization, that we understand as the inclusion of an international, intercultural and or global dimension into the curriculum and teaching and learning process, with the aim to improve the quality of education and research for all students, teachers, and staff members. The second important term is peer learning moments, which we understand as segments of time when it has been evident that students interact with each other and this interaction is related to the subject of their class. We understand peer learning as an activity or instructional practice in which students interact with other students to attain educational goals. This activity is designed by the instructor to engage students in the sharing of their own knowledge, ideas, and experiences, and allows students to learn by explaining their ideas to classmates and by contributing to activities in which they can learn from peers. Peer is indeed a central term related to this, and peers we understand as other individuals who do not occupy a role as a teacher or expert. They possess the status of fellow learners and they are accepted as such. Peer learning assumes students to be actively involved and independent in learning. For this research, we have collected three types of data. First of all, we video recorded 15 classes that were offered either face-to-face or online of 15 teachers that were undergoing our academic development course. They all had home and international students from BA and MA level in their classes, and they were teaching different subjects from humanities, social sciences, and medicine at Comenius University in Bratislava. The course, as I said, aimed to help teachers to internationalize student learning. And as a way to do this, we introduced teachers to the notion of peer learning. We encouraged them to integrate peer learning into their classes, and teachers had coaches to support them. This 2-year academic development course has been accredited by British CEDA and has been offered as part of the international collaborative Erasmus Plus project called Impact. The second type of data collected for this research are interviews, which we recorded with international and home students from each course. Typically, we interviewed 2 students from each course. In total, these were 20 students out of 125, and we asked them on their perceptions of peer learning. In the specific class that we video recorded and in the entire course, and these interviews we had transcribed verbatim. We also had classes. We had notes from class observations where we noted interesting and important things that caught the eye of the observer and related to peer learning. And the observer remained after the class was over in the classroom or online and talk with the teacher about their plans, the actual learning outcomes from that class session, why teacher chose specific strategies, etc. We entered all data into MaxQDA software, and we use emergent inductive approach to coding, looking for what characterizes peer learning moments. We have not yet analyzed all data, but this presentation is based on analyzing data from 8 class sessions. When we identified peer learning moments, we divided class sessions into so-called episodes that were shorter interactions between teachers or teacher and students. They could be either teacher or student initiated, but mostly the former. If the teacher initiated the interaction, it could be directed towards the entire class, group of students, or individual students. And very often it referred to previous student contribution. If the student initiated the interaction, it again was directed to another student, to teacher, or the entire class, and often it referred to previous student contribution. In these recordings from classes and related material, we identified 4 classes where we could not find any single peer learning element, peer learning moment. This was, I must say, quite disappointing for us as the leaders of the course, because we thought we spent quite some time with the teachers trialing different peer learning strategies, explaining why peer learning is effective and can be very effective learning strategy to enhance internationalization. And we thought that the teachers very much appreciated this and felt enthusiastic. We could have seen that they felt enthusiastic about peer learning. Yet in 4 classes, we could not have seen any peer learning moments. And so we asked the teachers why did not they decide to introduce any peer learning into their classes. So these teachers said the following. One of them said, I was not aware I was lecturing that long. And this was an hour and a half long lecture. And then the teacher simply had no time to introduce peer learning activity. Another teacher said that they believed that students are not yet used to learning this way. And the third teacher said that they needed more time to decide to trial peer learning instead of lecturing or using student presentations where interaction between students or among students was missing. When we asked students from those classes that included peer learning moments, we've seen that students generally found the class climate good. They appreciated the opportunity to learn from each other, but they mentioned 2 disadvantages. One of them was that they could be called on by name when they might not have anything to say, and they found this embarrassing. And second disadvantage was that they found it hard to concentrate on peer-student contributions if their contributions, in this case presentations, were too long. Sometimes they took 20 minutes, and we could see on the video recordings that sometimes even 10 minutes was too long. In this slide, you can see a map of peer learning interactions in one class. This was from a medical education course. The course was based on several students having presentations, and then teacher tried to elicit responses from non-presenting students to these presentations. Students were expected to follow and contribute, and much of the interaction was related to making links. In this map, you can see that most interaction was initiated by the teacher and what is between her and the class as a whole or individual students here. Whereas much less interaction was between individual students. This is certainly something that we would like to encourage more in our future courses, because we believe that peer learning, good peer learning occurs when the interaction is mostly between the students themselves. Students in general felt very positive about this approach, but here they repeatedly mentioned concern for being called on by name. In this research, we learned several things that we find important and that might be for interest for other academic developers. First, we are going to recommend to instructors that attend our courses that they should tell students in advance that it's fine to have nothing to comment on, because good learning often happens without students immediately reacting to each other. And we would also like to guide students, we would also like teachers to guide students to have contributions reasonably short, definitely below 10 minutes. We also learned that some teachers need repeated and varied incentives to trial peer learning in their classrooms, and we will bear this in mind when designing future course. Here are the references that we used in our research, and out of these references, I would like to notify you to one website, and this is the website Internationalizing Teaching in Higher Education, which is an open access portal that we created as part of the project Impact. Its subtitle is Supporting Peer Learning. And here in this website, we've collected, and we still collect good practices from internationalizing classes, practices that help international students and mixed groups of home and international students to learn better. A number of these strategies use peer learning as a method. Also, other methods like simulations have peer learning embedded in them. And if you click on each example of good practice, you always see the teaching and learning challenge that the teacher was trying to solve or address, the description of pedagogical method, something about the context, collected sources of data, and here you find descriptions of how what the teacher found by introducing, by researching student learning. Finally, there is an elaboration on replicability in a different context. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to your questions in the discussion section.